I'm in pretty much the heart of Sri Lanka. If this is a map, I'm right in the palm, and there's just this kind of whole area in the foothills of the hill country is dotted with all the ancient sites and Buddhist relics that the coast communities had destroyed through successive invasions. And this rock, or actually it's the dried magma heart of an ancient volcano. It's called Sigiriya, and it was believed that on the summit about 1,500 years ago a king of this area built a palace and had a unique fortress up there. But recent archaeologists have said that it's actually there's no evidence for a palace. It was more likely a monastery, and it goes back almost 2,000 years. But it's just a very interesting rock. So this is the entrance gateway to Sigiriya Rock, and it's known as the Lion Gateway because it dates to the 5th century, and you can see these huge plaster paws. That's pretty much all that remains, and before there was a brick lion's mouth that the staircase would have led up into to get to the top of the fortress on top. So it's very interesting. What remains is still really impressive, and it was completely lost until just the turn of the 20th century, when a nice Victorian gent, HCP Bell, who has done a lot of excavations all over Sri Lanka, unearthed these things while working on the rock. It's time to go up. So this is the top, the summit of Sigiriya Rock, and the views are just amazing. And you don't really get a sense that you're up on this huge boulder because it's all tucked underneath. It's just nice. So they're scattered with ruins up here. There's some pools that they think were either swimming pools or water storage. A lot of walls, foundations. It's a view that hasn't changed for thousands of years. Impressive. So this is another ancient capital of Sri Lanka over a much larger area than Sigiriya. This is Polonnaruwa, and a little bit further north it was instead of 18 years that Sigiriya had in the limelight, this spread out ancient city was capital for 300 years.
සරසන්නට සංසාරේ ඉන්න ළඟින් ආයුබෝවන් මගේ මැනිකේ.
So I've just left the main city. That's the gatehouse, the northern entrance, and this would have been 2,000 years ago or thereabouts. This was the main street. Either side there's these two tiers along the ditch that would have been street stalls apparently, and all kind of commerce and the hustle and bustle of medieval Sri Lankan life in what is now a pretty quiet country park. So my final stop in Sri Lanka's cultural triangle is Anuradhapura, the largest of the sites, hence you can only really get around on a bicycle, or if you're rich, hire a car and a guide. But this was the capital for the longest out of the three, from the 3rd century BC, around the start of when Buddhism came over to Sri Lanka, all the way up until the 11th century. And it's a site just full of huge dagobas and the remains of ancient monasteries, pillars and ruins, huge lakes, artificial lakes, tanks, and central is the oldest tree in the world, apparently, a cutting from the tree that the Buddha gained enlightenment under. And the original trees now are lost, and this one's over 2,000 years old. This tree is kind of a big deal in Sri Lanka, and it's central to the whole city, really. It was brought over, it's been tested, it's supposed to be the oldest tree in the world. It's 2,000 years old, and it was brought over from India. And then more recently, or in the last 1,000 years or few hundred years, a cutting from this tree was taken back to Bodh Gaya, the place of enlightenment, and grown in the place of the original tree, which has been lost. So it's pretty interesting. Doesn't look very old. Big deal. There's a lot of kind of strange or interesting statistics around Anuradhapura. For instance, this dagoba, Jethavanarama dagoba, was built in the 3rd century AD. And when it was built, it was the 3rd highest building in the world, so they say. Number 1 and number 2 were both Egyptian pyramids. So if you don't count ancient Egypt, at one point that brick structure in the middle of well, then it was a big city, but now middle of jungle in Sri Lanka, tallest building in the world. Strange.